It was a Friday evening, a bit earlier than usual when I got home. I had planned to surprise my wife Megan with dinner at her favorite restaurant, but instead, I was the one who got the surprise. A gut-wrenching, life-altering surprise. As I opened the door to our bedroom, the sight that greeted me froze me in my tracks. There was Megan, in our bed, wrapped in the arms of another man. I recognized him immediately. Brad, one of our mutual friends. Megan screamed and tried to cover herself, while Brad fumbled around, hastily grabbing his clothes. For a moment I couldn't move. My mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of shock and betrayal coursing through my veins. This wasn't just a random man. This was someone we both knew. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the house. I needed to get away, to clear my head. The walls of our home, once filled with love and warmth, now felt like they were closing in on me, suffocating me with the weight of betrayal. I called my best friend John. He knew something was wrong the moment he heard my voice and arrived at the bar within minutes. We sat in silence for a while, the only sound of the clinking of glasses and the murmur of other patrons. Finally, I told him everything. The shock, the rage, the disbelief. It all came pouring out. John listened patiently, his face a mask of concern and anger on my behalf. The next day, Megan called me. Her voice was shaky, filled with tears and regret. She begged me to meet her, to talk things through. Part of me wanted to hang up, to shut her out of my life completely. But another part of me, the part that still loved her, agreed to the meeting. We met at a small cafe, one we used to visit often. Megan looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. She confessed everything, explaining that it was a moment of weakness, a fleeting affair that she deeply regretted. She pleaded for forgiveness, her words a tangled mess of apologies and promises. But I knew I couldn't simply forgive and forget. The pain was too raw, the wound too deep. As I listened to her, an idea began to form in my mind, a way to make her feel the same agony I was experiencing. Forgiveness would not come easily, if at all. If Megan wanted to rebuild what she had shattered, she would have to endure the same suffering. I suggested we take a break and live separately for a while to sort out our feelings. Megan reluctantly agreed, not suspecting that I had ulterior motives. This was the beginning of my plan for revenge. I wanted her to understand the magnitude of her betrayal, to feel the same despair and helplessness that she had inflicted upon me. Over the next few weeks, I kept in touch with Megan, giving her false hope that we might reconcile. Meanwhile, I threw myself into a new lifestyle, going out, meeting new people, and even engaging in a few casual flings. It was a temporary distraction, a way to dull the pain and gather strength for what lay ahead. Megan began to notice the changes. She saw me with other women and felt the sting of jealousy and regret. But she remained silent, knowing she had no right to question my actions. The stage was set for the final act of my revenge. One evening, I invited Megan to dinner, telling her we needed to discuss our future. She arrived, looking hopeful and anxious, clearly believing that I was ready to forgive her. But forgiveness was far from my mind. At dinner, I laid it all out. Every detail of my new life, the women I had been with, the nights I spent away from home. I watched as her face crumpled, the reality of her actions hitting her like a tidal wave. She was devastated, unable to hold back her tears. "I can't do this anymore, Megan," I said, my voice cold and final. "Our marriage is over. I can't be with someone who betrayed me like you did." She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably. But my decision was made. The pain she had caused me had come full circle, and now she had to live with the consequences. As I walked away from the restaurant, I felt a strange sense of liberation. The burden of betrayal had been lifted, and I was free to start anew. I moved to a new city, leaving the past behind. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. The days following that fateful dinner were a blur. My mind was a storm of conflicting emotions, anger, sorrow, relief, and even a strange sense of satisfaction. Megan's tear-streaked face haunted my thoughts, but I was resolute in my decision. The betrayal had been too deep, and there was no turning back. To distract myself, I threw myself into my work. My colleagues at the law firm noticed the change in me, but no one dared to ask. I became more focused and more driven, pouring my energy into every case that crossed my desk. It was a welcome escape from the turmoil of my personal life. One evening, John called me up, suggesting we grab a few drinks. He had been my rock through all of this, always ready with a listening ear and a word of advice. We met at our usual bar, and after a few rounds, I finally let my guard down. "She called me again," I said, swirling the whiskey in my glass. "Begging for another chance. She says she can't live without me." John frowned, his expression darkening. "And what did you say?" "I told her it's over. I can't go back, John. Not after what she did." He nodded, his gaze steady. "Good. You deserve better, man. Don't let her guilt trip you into anything." His words resonated with me, reinforcing my resolve. I knew he was right. Megan's remorse, no matter how genuine, couldn't undo the damage. The trust we once shared was shattered, and I wasn't willing to pick up the pieces. In the weeks that followed, I began to carve out a new routine. I joined a gym, started running in the mornings, and even picked up cooking, something Megan had always done for us. The kitchen, once a place of shared moments and laughter, now became my sanctuary. Each meal I prepared felt like a small step toward reclaiming my independence. But it wasn't just about distractions. I needed to reclaim my social life as well. John introduced me to some of his friends, and soon I was going out more often and meeting new people. It was during one of these nights out that I met Lisa. Lisa was different from anyone I had ever known, vibrant, witty, and unapologetically herself. She had a way of drawing people in with her infectious energy and sharp sense of humor. We hit it off immediately, and for the first time since the betrayal, I felt a spark of genuine interest in someone else. Our first few dates were casual: dinners, movies, walks in the park. Lisa was easy to talk to, and I found myself opening up to her about my past, something I hadn't done with anyone else. She listened without judgment, her empathy a soothing balm to my wounded soul. One night, as we sat on a bench overlooking the city skyline, Lisa turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "You're still hurting," she said softly. "I can see it, but you're also healing, and that's what matters." Her words struck a chord within me. She was right. The pain was still there, lingering like a shadow, but it was no longer all-consuming. Each day brought a little more clarity, a little more distance from the heartache. Around this time, Megan's calls and messages started to dwindle. Perhaps she finally understood that I meant what I said, that our marriage was truly over. There was a bittersweetness to this realization. I had loved Megan deeply, but that chapter of my life was closed, and I needed to look forward. One Saturday morning while jogging through the park, I ran into Megan. She looked worn, as if the weight of the past months had taken a toll on her. We exchanged a few polite words, but the conversation was stilted and awkward. It was clear that time hadn't been kind to her either. After our brief encounter, I sat on a bench, catching my breath. Seeing Megan stirred up old memories, but it also reaffirmed my decision. I needed to keep moving forward, to continue rebuilding my life on my terms. With Lisa, things progressed naturally. She wasn't a replacement for Megan, but rather a new chapter, a fresh start. Our relationship was still in its early stages, but it was grounded in honesty and mutual respect. It was what I needed, a chance to redefine what love and trust meant to me. As summer turned into fall, I felt a sense of renewal. The leaves changed color, the air grew crisp, and I found myself embracing the change. My journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. Megan's betrayal had shattered me, but it had also set me on a path of self-discovery and resilience. I was learning to trust again, to open my heart without fear, and with each passing day, I felt a little more like myself, a stronger, wiser version of the man who had walked in on a life-altering scene that fateful Friday evening. Life was finally starting to settle into a rhythm again. My routine brought me a sense of stability, and my budding relationship with Lisa offered a glimmer of happiness amidst the chaos. However, just as things seemed to be falling into place, the past found a way to disrupt the fragile peace I had built. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the office, I received a call from Megan. Her voice was shaky, and I could sense the urgency. "Ryan, we need to talk," she said, her tone pleading. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to hang up, to keep my distance from the woman who had caused me so much pain. But something in her voice stopped me. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her the next day. We chose a quiet cafe, far from our usual haunts. Megan looked even more haggard than before, her eyes filled with a mix of regret and desperation. As she sat down, she fidgeted nervously with her hands. "Ryan, I know I don't have the right to ask for anything from you," she began, her voice trembling. "But there's something you need to know. Brad, he's been harassing me ever since we ended things. I thought I could handle it, but it's getting worse." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. The man who had torn my marriage apart was now causing her misery. A part of me wanted to revel in the irony, to see it as karma for her betrayal. But another part, the part that had once loved her deeply, felt a pang of concern. "Why are you telling me this, Megan?" I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "Because I don't know who else to turn to," she admitted, tears welling up in her eyes. "I've tried everything, but he won't leave me alone. I know I've hurt you, Ryan, but please, can you help me?" I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was the last thing I expected, and I wasn't sure how to respond. But as I looked at Megan, I realized that despite everything, I couldn't just turn my back on her completely. Not when she was in real trouble. "All right," I said finally, my voice steady. "I'll see what I can do." Over the next few days, I found myself reluctantly drawn back into Megan's life. I contacted a few friends in law enforcement, explaining the situation without delving into too many personal details. They assured me they would keep an eye on Brad and intervene if necessary. Megan was grateful, but the whole ordeal left me feeling conflicted. Helping her stirred up old emotions, both good and bad. I confided in John, who offered his usual straightforward advice. "You did the right thing, Ryan," he said, "but don't let this drag you back into the past. You need to stay focused on your future." And so, I tried to maintain a delicate balance. I kept my distance from Megan while ensuring she was safe, and I focused on my relationship with Lisa. But it was harder than I anticipated. The past had a way of creeping in, and the lines between old wounds and new beginnings began to blur. One night, after a particularly tense conversation with Megan about Brad's latest harassment attempt, I felt overwhelmed. Lisa noticed my unease and gently pressed me to open up. I told her everything, about Megan, Brad, and the tangled web of emotions that had ensnared me once again. Lisa listened patiently, her eyes filled with understanding. "Ryan, you're a good man for helping her, even after everything," she said softly. "But you can't let this consume you. Remember why you moved on in the first place." Her words were a beacon of clarity in the storm. I realized that while I couldn't ignore Megan's plight, I also couldn't allow it to dominate my life. I needed to find a way to support her without sacrificing my well-being and happiness. The situation with Brad eventually reached a tipping point. My friends in law enforcement managed to catch him violating a restraining order Megan had filed, and he was arrested. Megan was finally free from his harassment, and she expressed her gratitude profusely. "Thank you, Ryan," she said, her voice filled with relief. "I don't know what I would have done without you." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and finality. "Take care of yourself, Megan," I said. "It's time for both of us to move on." As I walked away from that conversation, I felt a sense of closure. The chapter with Megan was finally ending, and I could fully embrace my new life with Lisa. The journey had been tumultuous, filled with unexpected twists and turns, but it had also been a path to self-discovery and growth. With Megan no longer a constant shadow in my life, I found it easier to focus on the present. Lisa and I grew closer, our bond strengthening with each passing day. I cherished the moments we spent together, grateful for her patience and understanding. The experience taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and resilience. I had faced betrayal, sought revenge, and found a way to heal. And now, as I stood at the threshold of a new chapter, I felt ready to embrace whatever the future held, knowing I had the strength to overcome any obstacle. The past would always be a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was free to write my own story, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of new beginnings. Life began to find a new sense of normalcy after Brad's arrest. Megan was finally free from his harassment, and I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was time to fully embrace my future with Lisa and leave the past where it belonged. One crisp autumn evening, Lisa and I decided to take a stroll through the park. The trees were a blaze of red, orange, and yellow, their leaves crunching under our feet as we walked hand in hand. It was one of those perfect moments that made me grateful for the present. "Ryan, there's something I've been meaning to ask you," Lisa said, her voice tentative. "Anything," I replied, squeezing her hand gently. "Would you like to meet my family?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "I think it's time." Meeting Lisa's family was a significant step, and I knew it. It was a sign of how serious our relationship had become. I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, but I nodded, smiling. I'd love to meet them. The following weekend, we drove to a quaint suburb where Lisa's parents lived. The house was warm and inviting, much like the family that welcomed me with open arms. Her parents, Margaret and David, were kind and down to earth, immediately putting me at ease. Her younger brother, Ethan, was a bit skeptical at first, but we soon bonded over our mutual love of football. Over dinner, Lisa's mother asked about my background, and I shared my story, omitting the most painful details. They listened attentively, their genuine interest and warmth making me feel like I was part of the family. It was a stark contrast to the isolation I had felt after Megan's betrayal. As the evening wore on, I found myself laughing and sharing stories, feeling a sense of belonging I hadn't experienced in a long time. Lisa's family accepted me for who I was, and their support was a balm to my still healing heart. On the drive back home, Lisa reached over and took my hand. "They like you, Ryan," she said with a smile. "I knew they would." "I like them too," I admitted. "Thank you for sharing this part of your life with me." As we continued to build our life together, Lisa and I explored new hobbies and interests. We took cooking classes, hiked new trails, and even planned a trip to Italy, a dream we both shared. Each experience brought us closer, strengthening the bond between us. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, my phone buzzed with a text from Megan. It was a simple message. "Thank you for everything. I'm moving to a new city to start over. I wish you all the best." I stared at the message for a moment, feeling a mixture of emotions. I showed it to Lisa, who read it and nodded. "This is good, Ryan. It means you both can finally move on." She was right. Megan's message felt like the final chapter of a long and painful story. I replied, wishing her well, and hoping she found the peace and happiness she was searching for. With that chapter closed, I felt a renewed sense of freedom. My relationship with Lisa flourished, and I found myself thinking about the future more and more. The possibility of building a life together, maybe even starting a family, seemed less like a distant dream and more like an achievable reality. One winter morning, as snow gently fell outside our window, Lisa and I sat by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa. She looked at me, her eyes filled with love and warmth. "Ryan, I've never been happier," she said softly. "You make me feel safe and loved every day." I took her hand, my heart swelling with emotion. "Lisa, you've given me a second chance at happiness. I can't imagine my life without you." As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized how far I had come. From the depths of betrayal and heartbreak, I had risen, finding love and hope once again. Lisa had been my beacon, guiding me through the darkest times and helping me see the beauty in life once more. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had shaped me into a stronger, wiser person. I had learned to trust again, to open my heart without fear. And most importantly, I had found someone who loved me for who I was, flaws and all. As the months turned into years, Lisa and I continued to build our life together. We faced challenges and celebrated victories, always supporting each other through it all. Our love grew deeper, rooted in trust, respect, and a shared vision for the future. Looking back, I realized that the pain and betrayal I had endured had led me to where I was meant to be. It had been a journey of self-discovery and healing, one that ultimately brought me to Lisa, and for that, I was eternally grateful. Life was unpredictable and filled with both joy and sorrow, but with Lisa by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came our way. Together, we would write our own story, one filled with love, laughter, and the promise of new beginnings. The new year arrived with a sense of renewed hope and possibility. Lisa and I were closer than ever, and our relationship was flourishing. Despite the challenges and the ghosts of the past, we managed to build a strong foundation based on love, trust, and mutual respect. One crisp January morning, as we were having breakfast, Lisa looked at me with a serious expression. "Ryan, there's something important we need to talk about." I set down my coffee cup, feeling a flutter of nerves. What's on your mind? She took a deep breath. I've been offered a promotion at work. It's a great opportunity, but it means I'll have to move to San Francisco. San Francisco was across the country from where we currently lived. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. I struggled to keep my emotions in check. Wow, that's amazing, Lisa. I'm so proud of you. But what does this mean for us? Lisa reached across the table and took my hand. I want us to be together, Ryan. I don't want to lose what we have, but I also don't want to force you into a decision. This is something we need to figure out together. We spent the next few days discussing our options, weighing the pros and cons of a long-distance relationship versus moving together. It was a difficult decision, and I could see the strain it was putting on both of us. Ultimately, I realized that I didn't want to be apart from Lisa. Our love had grown too strong to let distance come between us. I'll move with you, I said one evening, as we sat on the couch, our fingers intertwined. I can find a job in San Francisco, and we can start this new chapter together. Lisa's eyes filled with tears of relief and joy. Are you sure, Ryan? It's a big change. I'm sure, I replied, my heart swelling with love. You're worth it, Lisa. We're worth it. With the decision made, we began the process of preparing for the move. It was a whirlwind of packing, job hunting, and saying goodbye to friends and family. But through it all, our bond only grew stronger. We faced each challenge together, supporting each other every step of the way. The move to San Francisco was a turning point in our relationship. It marked the beginning of a new adventure, one that we were eager to embark on together. The city was vibrant and full of life, offering endless opportunities for exploration and growth. Lisa's new job kept her busy, but we made sure to carve out time for each other. We explored our new city, discovering charming neighborhoods, cozy cafes, and breathtaking views. Each new experience brought us closer, solidifying our commitment to each other. As the months passed, I found a job that I loved, and we settled into a comfortable routine. Our apartment, though small, was filled with warmth and laughter. We hosted dinner parties for our new friends, went on weekend getaways, and spent quiet evenings at home, enjoying each other's company. One sunny afternoon, as we strolled through Golden Gate Park, Lisa turned to me with a smile. I've been thinking, she said, her eyes sparkling. We've built such a wonderful life together here. I can't imagine being anywhere else. I pulled her close, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Me neither. This city, this life, it's everything I've ever wanted because I have you. Our life in San Francisco was filled with joy and fulfillment. We continued to grow, both as individuals and as a couple. We faced challenges head-on, knowing that we could overcome anything as long as we were together. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our rooftop, Lisa took my hand and said, Ryan, I know we've been through a lot to get here, but I wouldn't change a thing. Every step of our journey has led us to this moment. I looked into her eyes, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. I feel the same way, Lisa. You've brought so much love and happiness into my life. I'm excited for whatever the future holds for us. With each passing day, our love grew deeper. We learned to navigate the ups and downs of life with grace and resilience. The scars of the past had healed, leaving us stronger and more connected than ever. As we stood there, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, I knew that our journey was just beginning. The road ahead was uncertain, but with Lisa by my side, I felt ready to face whatever challenges came our way. Together, we would continue to write our story, one filled with love, laughter, and the promise of endless possibilities. Our life in San Francisco felt like a dream come true. Lisa and I had built a beautiful life together, full of love, laughter, and new experiences. But as often happens, the past has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. One afternoon while I was at work, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. Hello, Ryan, said a familiar voice on the other end. My heart skipped a beat. It was Megan. Megan, what do you want? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to talk to you, she said, her tone urgent. It's important. I hesitated, memories of our past flooding back, but something in her voice told me that this wasn't just a casual call. All right, where are you? I'm in San Francisco. Can we meet? A mix of emotions surged through me, curiosity, apprehension, and a lingering sense of duty. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my office. When I arrived, Megan was already there, looking nervous and out of place. She spotted me and waved tentatively. I walked over and sat down, studying her face. She looked tired, worn down by whatever had brought her here. "Thanks for meeting me, Ryan," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you here, Megan?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting mine. "I've been trying to move on, to start over. But things haven't been easy. I lost my job, and I've been struggling to find stability. I needed a fresh start, so I came here. I didn't know who else to turn to." I listened, feeling a pang of sympathy despite everything that had happened. "I'm sorry to hear that, Megan, but what do you need from me?" I need a friend," she said, her eyes pleading. "Someone who knows me, who understands. I know I don't deserve your help, but I didn't know where else to go." Her words stirred something in me. Despite the pain she had caused, she was still a person in need. I couldn't turn my back completely. "All right, Megan, I can help you get back on your feet, but this doesn't mean we can go back to how things were." "I understand," she said, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it more than you know." I agreed to help her find a job and get settled in the city. It was a strange feeling, rekindling this connection with someone who had once been such a significant part of my life. But I knew it was the right thing to do. Over the next few weeks, I helped Megan polish her resume, gave her job leads, and even connected her with some people in my professional network. Lisa noticed the extra time I was spending and finally asked about it. "Ryan, is everything okay?" she asked one evening as we cooked dinner together. "You've been busy lately." I took a deep breath, knowing I needed to be honest. "Lisa, I need to tell you something. Megan reached out to me. She's here in San Francisco and needed help getting back on her feet." Lisa's eyes widened in surprise. "Megan? Your ex-wife?" "Yes," I said, watching her reaction closely. "I'm just helping her find a job and get settled. Nothing more." Lisa was quiet for a moment, processing the information. "I trust you, Ryan, but this is a lot to take in. Are you sure this is a good idea?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. "But I couldn't just ignore her. She's struggling and I felt like I had to help. But you're my priority, Lisa. I won't let this come between us." She nodded, her expression softening. "I understand. Just be careful. We've worked so hard to build our life together." "I promise," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You mean everything to me." Despite my reassurances, the situation with Megan brought an undercurrent of tension into our lives. I tried to maintain a balance, helping Megan while ensuring Lisa felt secure in our relationship. One evening, Megan called me, her voice frantic. "Ryan, can you come over? Something happened." I arrived at her apartment to find her visibly shaken. She explained that she had been harassed by someone from her past, another fallout from the life she was trying to leave behind. I called the police and stayed with her until she felt safe. As I was leaving, Megan looked at me with gratitude. "Thank you, Ryan. I don't know what I would do without you." "It's okay, Megan. Just take care of yourself," I said, feeling the weight of the situation. When I got home, Lisa was waiting for me, concern etched on her face. I explained what had happened, and she listened quietly. "Ryan, I'm worried," she finally said. "This seems like more than just helping an old friend. Are you sure you're not getting too involved?" "I'm sure," I said, taking her hands in mine. "I'm just trying to do the right thing, but if it's causing problems between us, I'll step back." Lisa sighed, her expression softening. "I trust you, Ryan. Just remember what's important. We need to protect what we have." "I promise, Lisa," I said, pulling her into my arms. "You're my priority, always." The situation with Megan was complicated and fraught with emotional landmines, but it also reaffirmed the strength of my relationship with Lisa. Through it all, we learned to communicate openly, to trust each other, and to prioritize our love. As the weeks went by, Megan found a job and began to stabilize her life. She was grateful for my help but respected the boundaries I had set. Slowly, the tension eased, and life began to feel normal again. Lisa and I emerged from this ordeal stronger and more connected. The experience had tested us, but it had also deepened our bond. We knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, with honesty and love. The past had resurfaced, but it no longer held power over me. I confronted my ghosts and emerged on the other side, ready to fully embrace the future with Lisa by my side. Our journey was far from over, but we were ready for whatever came next, confident in the strength of our love. The dust from Megan's reappearance in my life had finally settled. With her finding stability and our lives returning to normal, Lisa and I grew even closer. The experiences we had weathered together had only solidified our bond, and I began to realize just how much she meant to me. It was time to take the next step. One evening, as we strolled along the Embarcadero, the sun setting behind the Golden Gate Bridge, I felt the weight of a small velvet box in my pocket. My heart raced, but I knew this was the right moment. "Lisa," I began, stopping and turning to face her. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with love and curiosity. "Yes, Ryan?" she asked, her voice soft. I took a deep breath, reaching for the box. "We've been through so much together, and every step of the way, you've been my rock, my joy, and my reason to smile. I can't imagine my life without you, and I don't want to. Lisa, will you marry me?" Her eyes widened in surprise, and then they filled with tears. A radiant smile spread across her face as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, Ryan, yes, 1,000 times yes." I slipped the ring onto her finger and we embraced, the world around us fading away. At that moment, it was just the two of us, wrapped in love and the promise of a future together. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of excitement and planning. We decided on a small, intimate wedding, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Lisa's parents were overjoyed, and even my parents, with whom I had reconnected over the past year, expressed their happiness and support. We chose a beautiful vineyard in Napa Valley for the ceremony, a place that held special meaning for us. It was where we had gone on one of our first trips together, and the memories of that visit made it the perfect setting for our big day. On the morning of the wedding, I felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. John, my best man, tried to keep things lighthearted, cracking jokes and reminiscing about old times. But as the time drew closer, my thoughts were consumed with anticipation and love for the woman I was about to marry. The ceremony was perfect. Lisa looked breathtaking in her elegant white dress, and as she walked down the aisle, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and joy. When she reached me, we both had tears in our eyes. The vows we exchanged were heartfelt and emotional. We promised to support each other, to cherish every moment, and to face whatever challenges came our way with love and understanding. As we sealed our vows with a kiss, the applause of our friends and family echoed around us, and I felt a profound sense of peace and happiness. The reception was a joyous celebration. We danced, laughed, and shared stories with our loved ones. It was a day filled with love, laughter, and the beginning of our new life together. As the evening drew to a close, Lisa and I stole a quiet moment away from the festivities. We stood under the stars, holding each other close and savoring the magic of the night. "This has been the happiest day of my life," Lisa said, her head resting on my shoulder. "Mine too," I replied, kissing the top of her head. "I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you." Our honeymoon was a dream come true. We traveled to Italy, exploring the beautiful countryside, indulging in delicious food, and immersing ourselves in the rich culture. Each day was an adventure, and we relished every moment together. Returning to San Francisco, we settled into married life with ease. Our home was filled with laughter, love, and the promise of a bright future. We continued to support each other, growing both individually and as a couple. One evening, a few months after our wedding, we sat on our rooftop watching the city lights twinkle below. Lisa turned to me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Ryan, there's something I want to talk to you about," she said, taking my hand. "What's that?" I asked, curious. "I've been thinking about our future, and I can't help but imagine us starting a family. What do you think?" The thought filled me with a warm sense of anticipation. "I think that sounds wonderful, Lisa. I can't wait to build a family with you." As we sat there, dreaming about the future, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey we had been on, with all its twists and turns, had led us to this moment. We had faced challenges, healed old wounds, and emerged stronger and more in love than ever. Our story was far from over. It was just beginning, and I couldn't wait to see what the future held for us. Together, we would continue to write our story, one filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm after our wedding. Lisa and I were happily married, and our thoughts began to turn towards the future and starting a family. But just as things seemed perfect, the past had a way of creeping back in, reminding me of the unfinished business I had with Megan. One evening, I was scrolling through my phone when I saw a notification from a local news site. It was about Brad. Despite his previous arrest and conviction, he had been released on parole. My heart sank, anger and fear swirling inside me. I had hoped that the chapter of my life was closed for good. I decided to keep this information from Lisa for the time being. There was no need to worry her unnecessarily, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something. Megan's earlier troubles, Brad's harassment, and the damage they had caused had left a scar on me that hadn't fully healed. A few days later, as I was walking to work, I saw Brad across the street. He hadn't noticed me, but seeing him stirred up all the anger and resentment I had buried. I knew that helping Megan had been the right thing to do, but Brad had never faced the full consequences of his actions. He had escaped justice too easily, and I couldn't let it go. I began to think of ways to bring Brad to justice once and for all. I didn't want to stoop to his level, but I couldn't sit back and do nothing. The need for revenge simmered inside me, fueled by a desire to protect my loved ones and ensure that Brad couldn't hurt anyone else. After work, I started researching Brad's life, trying to find any information that could be useful. I discovered that he was trying to rebuild his reputation, working at a new job, and attempting to integrate back into society. The thought of him living a normal life after everything he had done made my blood boil. I decided to pay a visit to Megan. She had a right to know that Brad was out, and maybe, just maybe, she could help me bring him to justice. When I arrived at her apartment, she greeted me with a mixture of surprise and concern. "Ryan, what are you doing here?" she asked, ushering me inside. "I need to talk to you about Brad," I said, watching her face closely. Her expression changed to one of fear and apprehension. "What about him?" "He's out on parole," I explained. "I saw him the other day. I can't just let him walk free after everything he's done." Megan's face paled and she sat down heavily on the couch. "What can we do?" "I'm scared, Ryan. I don't want to go through this again." "I've been thinking," I said, sitting beside her. "We need to gather evidence. Anything that can show he's violated his parole or is involved in something illegal. If we can prove he's still a threat, we can get him locked up again." Megan hesitated, but then nodded. "Okay, I'll help. I don't want to live in fear anymore either." Over the next few weeks, Megan and I worked together, gathering information and keeping a close watch on Brad. It was exhausting and stressful, but it felt like we were finally doing something to right the wrongs of the past. One evening, while Lisa and I were having dinner, she noticed that I seemed distracted. "Ryan, is everything all right? You've been distant lately." I looked at her, the guilt of keeping things from her weighing heavily on my mind. "There's something I need to tell you. Brad is out on parole, and I've been working with Megan to try to get him back in jail." Lisa's face registered shock and concern. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to worry you," I admitted, "but I can't let him get away with what he did. I need to protect you, protect us." Lisa reached across the table and took my hand. "I understand, Ryan, but please be careful. Don't let this consume you. We have a life to build together." "I promise, Lisa, I'm doing this for us, for our future," I said, squeezing her hand. Our investigation into Brad's activities began to yield results. We discovered that he had been associating with known criminals and engaging in suspicious activities. Armed with this information, we approached the authorities, hoping they would take action. The process was slow and frustrating, but eventually, Brad was brought in for questioning. The evidence we had gathered was enough to revoke his parole, and he was sent back to prison. It was a victory, but it felt hollow. The damage he had caused could never be fully undone. Megan thanked me for my help, and I felt a sense of closure knowing that she could finally move on with her life. But the experience had taken a toll on me. The desire for revenge had consumed me, and I realized I needed to let go of the past to truly embrace my future with Lisa. One evening, as Lisa and I sat on our rooftop watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "It's over. Brad is back in prison. We can finally move on." Lisa looked at me, her eyes filled with love and relief. "I'm glad, Ryan. Now we can focus on what's important, our life together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The past had been confronted and dealt with, and now it was time to look forward. Lisa and I had a bright future ahead, and I was ready to embrace it fully, free from the shadows of the past. The dust had finally settled after Brad's reimprisonment. With him no longer a threat, Lisa and I could finally focus on the future we had dreamed of together. But the journey to recovery was not just about external threats, it was also about healing the internal scars left behind by the past. The first few weeks after Brad's arrest were a whirlwind of emotions. I found myself struggling with a mixture of relief and lingering anger. Lisa, ever the supportive partner, encouraged me to seek therapy. "You've been through a lot, Ryan. It's okay to ask for help," she said one evening as we sat on the couch, her hand resting gently on mine. I knew she was right. I made an appointment with a therapist and began the slow, sometimes painful process of unpacking my feelings. Therapy was challenging, but it provided a safe space to explore my emotions and work through the trauma of the past years. One of the most important lessons I learned was the power of forgiveness. Not just forgiving Megan and Brad, but forgiving myself for the mistakes I had made and the pain I had endured. My therapist helped me understand that holding on to anger and resentment was only harming me, and that letting go was essential for my healing. During this time, Lisa was my rock. She attended a few therapy sessions with me, which helped her understand my struggles better and brought us even closer. We learned to communicate more openly, sharing our fears and hopes without judgment. This newfound honesty strengthened our relationship in ways I hadn't thought possible. We also focused on building new, positive memories together. We took trips, explored new hobbies, and spent quality time with friends and family. Each experience added another layer to the foundation of our marriage, making it even more resilient. One sunny afternoon, Lisa and I decided to visit a local animal shelter. We had been talking about getting a pet for a while, and it seemed like the perfect time. As we walked through the shelter, we came across a playful, energetic dog named Max. He bounded over to us, wagging his tail furiously, and we instantly fell in love. Bringing Max into our home brought a new kind of joy and companionship. He was a constant source of laughter and comfort, reminding us to appreciate the simple pleasures in life. Our little family felt complete with him. Meanwhile, Megan had started to rebuild her life too. She had found a steady job and was slowly piecing her life back together. We stayed in touch occasionally, and I was glad to see her making positive changes. The chaos and pain of our past had given way to a cautious but hopeful new beginning for both of us. One evening, as Lisa and I sat on our rooftop, watching the stars, she turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Ryan, I've been thinking about what we talked about before, about starting a family. Do you think we're ready?" Her question took me by surprise, but as I looked into her eyes, filled with love and hope, I felt a sense of clarity. "I think we are, Lisa. We've been through so much, and we've come out stronger. I can't think of a better time to start our next adventure." The decision to start a family marked the beginning of an exciting new chapter in our lives. We visited doctors, read books, and prepared ourselves for the journey ahead. The prospect of becoming parents was both exhilarating and daunting, but we faced it together, confident in our ability to navigate whatever challenges lay ahead. As the months passed, our anticipation grew. We decorated a nursery, stocked up on baby supplies, and attended prenatal classes. Every step brought us closer to the reality of welcoming a new life into our world. One crisp autumn morning, Lisa woke me up with a wide smile and a positive pregnancy test. "Ryan, we're going to be parents!" she exclaimed, tears of joy streaming down her face. I pulled her into a tight embrace, overwhelmed with happiness. "We did it, Lisa! We're going to be a family!" The journey to recovery had been long and challenging, but it had also brought us closer than ever. We had faced our demons, healed our wounds, and emerged stronger on the other side. Now, as we stood on the brink of this new adventure, I felt a profound sense of gratitude and excitement for the future. With Lisa by my side and the promise of new beginnings ahead, I knew that we could face anything together. Our love had been tested and had proven unbreakable. The road to recovery had led us here, to a place of hope, happiness, and endless possibilities. The months flew by in a whirlwind of anticipation and preparation. Lisa's pregnancy progressed smoothly, and each milestone brought us closer to the arrival of our baby. We attended doctor's appointments together, listened to the baby's heartbeat, and marveled at the ultrasound images that showed our little one growing. As Lisa's due date approached, our excitement grew. We spent evenings together, imagining what our life would be like with a baby in our arms. We read parenting books, set up the nursery, and stocked up on diapers and baby clothes. One rainy April evening, Lisa woke me with a gentle shake. "Ryan, it's time," she said, her voice filled with both excitement and nerves. My heart raced as we hurried to gather our things and make our way to the hospital. The drive felt like it took forever, but eventually, we arrived at the maternity ward, where the nurses welcomed us with warm smiles and reassuring words. Hours passed in a blur of emotions, anticipation, fear, and overwhelming love. Lisa was a picture of strength and courage as she labored, and I held her hand, offering words of encouragement and love. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, our baby was born. A beautiful, healthy boy. The moment they placed him in Lisa's arms, tears of joy streamed down both our faces. Our hearts swelled with love as we marveled at the miracle we had created together. "We did it," Lisa whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Yes, we did," I replied, kissing her forehead. Bringing our son home was a surreal experience. The nursery we had lovingly prepared was now filled with the sounds of baby coos and tiny cries. Sleepless nights and endless diaper changes became our new normal, but we embraced every moment, knowing how precious and fleeting these early days were. Max, our loyal canine companion, adjusted to the new addition to our family with surprising ease. He became fiercely protective of his new baby brother, often curling up next to his crib or standing guard during tummy time. As weeks turned into months, we settled into a routine as new parents. We took turns soothing our son, singing lullabies, and marveling at his every milestone, his first smile, his first laugh, and the way his eyes followed us around the room. Parenthood brought challenges, of course, sleep deprivation, moments of doubt, and the constant juggling of responsibilities. But through it all, our bond grew stronger. We supported each other, celebrated small victories, and found joy in the simple moments of family life. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, our son nestled between us, Lisa turned to me with a soft smile. "Ryan, look at our family. We've been through so much, but here we are, happier than ever." I kissed her cheek, feeling a surge of gratitude. "I couldn't ask for more, Lisa. You and our son are everything to me." Our journey together had been a roller coaster of emotions, filled with challenges, heartache, and moments of profound joy. From the depths of betrayal and pain to the heights of love and new beginnings, we navigated it all with courage and resilience. Looking back, I realized that every twist and turn has led us to this beautiful chapter in our lives. Our love had endured, grown, and flourished against all odds. We had faced our fears, confronted our past, and emerged stronger and more united than ever before. As I sat there, surrounded by the warmth of my family, I knew that our story was far from over. We had embarked on a new journey, one filled with laughter, love, and the promise of a future brimming with endless possibilities. Together, with Lisa by my side and our son in our arms, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace and contentment. Our road to recovery had led us here, to a place of happiness, fulfillment, and the boundless joy of new beginnings. As our son grew, so did our sense of fulfillment and joy. Parenting brought us closer together as we navigated the challenges and celebrated the milestones of our child's early years. Our home was filled with laughter, love, and the comforting routines of family life. Reflecting on our journey, I found myself filled with gratitude for all that we had overcome. The scars of the past had faded, replaced by a deep appreciation for the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to heal. One crisp autumn afternoon, I sat in our backyard, watching our son play with Max. Lisa joined me, her smile lighting up her face as she settled beside me on the bench. "Ryan, look at them," she said softly, her eyes fixed on our son chasing after the dog. "We've come so far." I nodded, taking her hand in mine. "Yes, we have. I'm grateful for every moment, every challenge we faced together." Lisa leaned her head on my shoulder, a peaceful silence settling between us. The past felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the beauty of our present and the promise of our future. In the years that followed, we continued to cherish our family moments, holiday traditions, bedtime stories, and weekend adventures. Our son grew into a curious and compassionate young boy, and we took pride in nurturing his interests and supporting his dreams. Life wasn't without its ups and downs, of course. We faced job changes, health scares, and the occasional disagreement. But through it all, we leaned on each other, drawing strength from the love and bond we had forged through our shared experiences. One evening, as we celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary with a quiet dinner at our favorite restaurant, Lisa raised her glass in a toast. "To us," she said, her eyes sparkling with emotion, "for all that we've been through and all that's yet to come." I raised my glass, meeting her gaze. "To us," I echoed, my heart overflowing with love and gratitude. As our son grew older, he became more aware of our journey as a family. We shared stories of resilience, forgiveness, and the importance of never giving up. He grew to appreciate the depth of our love and the strength it had given us through difficult times. Looking back on our story, I realized that every twist and turn had shaped us into the people we are today, stronger, wiser, and more appreciative of the blessings in our lives. Our journey taught us the value of forgiveness, the power of resilience, and the beauty of second chances. Now, as I watch our son play in the fading light of another day, I feel a deep sense of peace. Our road to recovery had led us here, to a place of profound happiness, boundless love, and unwavering gratitude for the gift of family. As we continue to write the next chapters of our story, I know that our love will guide us through whatever challenges lie ahead. Together, with Lisa by my side and our son in our hearts, I am grateful for the journey that brought us to this moment, a moment filled with hope, laughter, and the promise of a future filled with endless possibilities. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm as our son entered his teenage years. He was growing more independent and adventurous, eager to explore the world around him. Lisa and I found ourselves adjusting to the challenges and joys of parenting a teenager, navigating the delicate balance between guidance and allowing him to find his path. Our home was filled with the lively energy of a teenager, music playing from his room, friends coming over for study sessions or weekend hangouts, and spirited debates at the dinner table. Despite the inevitable ups and downs, we cherished these moments of connection and growth as a family. One summer evening, as we gathered around the backyard fire pit, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we had come. Our journey together, from betrayal and heartache to forgiveness and healing, had brought us to this place of warmth and contentment. "Remember when we thought we'd never get through those tough times?" Lisa mused, her gaze flickering with memories. I nodded, reaching for her hand. "It feels like a lifetime ago, but I'm grateful for how it shaped us, made us appreciate what we have." Our son, now a young man with a curious glint in his eye, looked at us thoughtfully. "You guys have been through a lot," he said, his voice tinged with admiration, "but you've always been there for each other." "That's what family does," I replied, smiling at him. "We stick together through thick and thin." As our son embarked on his adventures, school trips, sports competitions, and budding friendships, Lisa and I found ourselves rediscovering our interests and passions. We traveled more frequently, explored new hobbies, and took time to nurture our relationship as a couple. One autumn afternoon, while hiking along a scenic trail in the mountains, Lisa turned to me with a playful grin. "Remember when we used to dream about our future together?" I chuckled, wrapping my arm around her shoulders. "And look where we are now, living our dreams." Our love had deepened over the years, forged through shared experiences and unwavering support for each other. We continued to lean on each other during challenging times, finding strength in our bond and resilience in our shared history. One evening, as we celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary with a romantic dinner overlooking the city skyline, I reflected on the twists and turns of our journey. From the pain of betrayal to the joy of forgiveness, each chapter has led us closer to this moment of gratitude and fulfillment. "To 20 years," Lisa toasted, raising her glass, "and to many more adventures together." I smiled, clinking my glass against hers. "To us," I replied, my heart overflowing with love and appreciation. As we entered this new chapter of our lives, our son on the brink of adulthood, our love stronger than ever, I knew that our story was far from over. We had weathered storms, celebrated victories, and grown together as individuals and as a family. With Lisa by my side and our son as our greatest gift, I looked forward to the future with hope and excitement. Our journey taught us the power of resilience, the beauty of second chances, and the importance of cherishing every moment together. As the stars twinkled above us and the city lights glowed below, I whispered a silent thank you to the universe, for the challenges that had made us stronger, for the love that had sustained us, and for the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Together, we would continue to write the next chapters of our story, filled with love, laughter, and the promise of a future brimming with hope and happiness. As our son ventured into adulthood, our roles as parents evolved yet again. We watched with pride as he pursued his passions, navigated career choices, and formed meaningful relationships of his own. Our home became a gathering place for family celebrations, holidays, and Sunday dinners, filled with laughter and reminiscence. Reflecting on our journey together, I often found myself marveling at the legacy of love and resilience that defined our family. The challenges we had faced, the betrayal, the forgiveness, the healing, had shaped us into the people we are today, stronger, wiser, and more appreciative of life's blessings. One summer afternoon, as Lisa and I sat in our garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and the gentle hum of bees, she turned to me with a serene smile. "Ryan, do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked, her voice soft. I nodded, taking her hand in mine. "All the time. Our journey has been filled with so many moments, some challenging, some joyful, but each one has brought us closer together." Lisa leaned her head on my shoulder, her eyes gazing out at our son playing with Max in the yard. "I'm grateful for every twist and turn, every lesson learned," she murmured. Our son had grown into a compassionate and driven young man, with a heart as big as his dreams. He visited us often, sharing updates on his life, seeking advice, and reliving cherished memories from his childhood. One evening during a family dinner, our son surprised us with an announcement. "Mom, Dad, I've met someone," he said, his face glowing with happiness. Lisa and I exchanged a glance, our hearts swelling with pride. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Lisa exclaimed, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "She's amazing," he continued, his excitement palpable. "I can't wait for you both to meet her." As our son introduced us to his partner, a kind-hearted and spirited young woman, we welcomed her into our family with open arms. Together, we celebrated milestones, shared laughter, and created new traditions that bridged generations and strengthened our bonds. One crisp autumn morning, our son and his partner surprised us with exciting news. They were expecting their first child. Lisa and I embraced each other, tears of joy streaming down our faces. "Our first grandchild," I whispered, overcome with emotion. Our home buzzed with anticipation as we prepared for the arrival of our grandchild. We painted the nursery, assembled cribs and rocking chairs, and filled shelves with children's books and toys. Lisa delighted in knitting tiny blankets and booties, her hands weaving love and anticipation into every stitch. When the day finally arrived and our grandchild entered the world, a beautiful, precious bundle of joy, our hearts expanded with a love deeper than we had ever known. Holding our grandchild for the first time, I was struck by the profound sense of continuity, the passing of the torch from one generation to the next. As our family gathered around, marveling at the miracle of new life, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had led us to this moment. Our legacy of love and resilience had come full circle, embracing the future with hope and optimism. In the quiet moments that followed, as I rocked my grandchild to sleep, I whispered stories of love, courage, and perseverance. I knew that our family's story would continue to unfold, guided by the lessons learned and the values passed down through generations. Looking back on our journey, from the tumultuous days of betrayal and forgiveness to the joyous milestones of family and new beginnings, I knew that every chapter had led us here, to a legacy of love that would endure, enrich, and inspire for generations to come. With a heart full of gratitude and love, I embraced the beauty of this new chapter, filled with the promise of family, the warmth of cherished memories, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. The weight of my decision hung heavy in the air as I sat across from Sarah, her tear-filled eyes searching mine for a glimmer of hope. We had been through so much together, years of laughter, shared dreams, and unwavering support. But now, faced with the stark reality of her betrayal, I knew there was no turning back. "Sarah," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me, "I can't do this anymore. After what you've done, I can't continue to be in this marriage." Her breath caught in her throat, tears streaming down her cheeks as she struggled to find words. "Please, Mark," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I know I made a mistake, but I love you. I can't lose you." I shook my head, the pain of her betrayal cutting deep. "You had a choice, Sarah. You chose to betray my trust, our marriage. There's nothing left for us now." Her shoulders slumped in defeat, a heart-wrenching sob escaping her lips. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible amidst the anguish. I closed my eyes briefly, trying to steady my emotions. "I know," I replied quietly, my heart aching with sadness and anger. "But trust once broken is not easily repaired." For a long moment, silence enveloped us, the weight of our words hanging between us like a heavy shroud. Memories of our life together flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, the birth of our children, the countless moments of joy and companionship. But now, those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by the pain of betrayal. Finally, Sarah spoke again, her voice filled with resignation. "What happens now, Mark?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what needed to be said. "I'll start the process for separation," I explained, my voice tinged with sorrow. "We'll need to figure out the logistics, but our marriage is over." Her tears flowed freely now, her whole body trembling with emotion. "I understand," she managed to say, her voice choked with tears. As I stood to leave, the weight of my decision settled heavily on my shoulders. I glanced back at Sarah, her form hunched over in grief, and for a moment, I felt a pang of regret. But deep down, I knew that I couldn't stay, not after everything that had happened. "I'm sorry, Sarah," I said softly, the words catching in my throat. "Take care of yourself." With a heavy heart, I turned away, leaving behind the life we had built together, a life that now lay shattered in the wake of betrayal. As I walked out into the cool night air, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held, now that the chapter of our marriage had come to an abrupt and painful end. The days that followed our painful confrontation with Sarah were filled with a profound sense of emptiness and uncertainty. The decision to end our marriage had been agonizing yet necessary. As I navigated the aftermath of our separation, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions: grief, relief, and a lingering sense of betrayal. With the support of close friends and family, I began to rebuild my life piece by piece. I moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, creating a space that felt like a fresh start amidst the echoes of the past. Simple routines, morning runs in the park, quiet evenings with a good book, became my refuge from the turmoil of divorce. Legal proceedings loomed ahead, a daunting reminder of the practicalities that needed to be addressed. Sarah and I navigated the division of assets and financial arrangements with a sense of resignation, each step bringing us closer to the finality of our separation. Amid paperwork and legal consultations, I sought solace in therapy. Talking to a counselor helped me unravel the tangled emotions that had accumulated over years of marriage and betrayal. I confronted my role in the breakdown of our relationship, acknowledging the mistakes I had made and the lessons I had learned. One afternoon, as I sat across from my therapist, she offered a gentle reminder. "Mark, healing takes time. Be patient with yourself." Her words resonated deeply. I had spent so long trying to make sense of the past, trying to understand how our once solid foundation had crumbled. Now I focused on the present, on rebuilding my sense of self and rediscovering my passions and interests. As weeks turned into months, I found moments of clarity and peace amidst the chaos. I immersed myself in work, throwing myself into projects that challenged and inspired me. Professional achievements became a source of pride and a reminder of my resilience in the face of adversity. Outside of work, I reconnected with old friends and explored new hobbies. I joined a hiking club and rediscovered my love for photography, capturing moments of natural beauty that brought me a sense of serenity and perspective. Throughout it all, the support of loved ones sustained me. Friends reached out with gestures of kindness and understanding, offering a listening ear or a comforting presence during moments of doubt and loneliness. Their unwavering support reminded me that I was not alone on this journey of healing and self-discovery. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset over the city skyline, a sense of gratitude washed over me. Despite the pain of separation and divorce, I had emerged stronger and more resilient. I had learned to prioritize my well-being and happiness, embracing the freedom to shape my future on my terms. As I looked ahead to the unknown chapters of my life, I felt a flicker of hope, a belief that I could create a life filled with purpose, fulfillment, and authentic connections. The road ahead was uncertain, but I faced it with courage and determination, knowing that I had the strength to move forward, one step at a time. With each passing day, I embraced the lessons of my past while embracing the possibilities of the future. The journey of healing was far from over, but I walked it with a renewed sense of resilience, grateful for the opportunity to rebuild my life and rediscover the joy that had once seemed lost. Months had passed since the finalization of my divorce from Sarah. Life had settled into a new rhythm, a rhythm defined by independence, self-discovery, and a renewed sense of purpose. Yet, despite the progress I had made in rebuilding my life, there lingered a need for closure, a resolution to the emotional wounds that still haunted me. One crisp autumn morning, I received an unexpected email from Sarah. The subject line was simple: closure. Curiosity mingled with apprehension as I opened the message, unsure of what to expect. In her email, Sarah expressed a heartfelt apology for the pain she had caused and the mistakes she had made during our marriage. She acknowledged her role in the breakdown of our relationship and expressed remorse for the choices that had led to our separation. Reading her words brought a rush of conflicting emotions: anger, sadness, and a flicker of forgiveness. I realized that despite everything that had happened, Sarah's apology offered a sense of closure, a chance to lay to rest the unresolved feelings that had lingered since our separation. After much consideration, I decided to meet with Sarah in person, a meeting that would mark the final chapter of our shared history and pave the way for a future untethered by the past. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe in the heart of the city, an intimate setting that felt neutral yet filled with memories of our past. As I waited for her to arrive, my mind raced with thoughts of our tumultuous journey together, the highs and lows, the laughter and tears. When Sarah walked through the door, I was struck by how much time had changed us both. Her once bright eyes now carried a weight of sorrow and regret, yet there was also a glimmer of hope, a hope for closure and a chance to move forward. We sat across from each other, words initially elusive as we navigated the awkwardness of the moment. Finally, Sarah broke the silence, her voice tentative yet sincere. "Mark, I don't expect you to forgive me," she began, her gaze steady. "But I want you to know how deeply sorry I am for everything. I never meant to hurt you." I took a deep breath, meeting her gaze with a mix of pain and understanding. "Sarah, what happened between us, it changed everything," I replied quietly. "But I've come to realize that holding on to anger and resentment only hurts me." Her shoulders sagged with the weight of her emotions. "I understand," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. For a long moment, we sat in silence, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. Then slowly, tentatively, we began to talk, sharing memories, acknowledging mistakes, and finding a measure of closure in our mutual understanding of what had gone wrong. As we talked, a sense of peace settled over me, a peace born not from forgiveness, but from acceptance, and a willingness to let go of the pain of the past. Sarah and I parted ways that day with a sense of closure, a closure that allowed us both to finally move forward, unburdened by the ghosts of our failed marriage. In the weeks that followed, I found myself reflecting on our meeting and the lessons it had taught me. I had learned that closure wasn't about erasing the past, but about making peace with it, acknowledging the pain, embracing the lessons, and finding a path forward with grace and dignity. With each passing day, I felt a renewed sense of freedom and possibility. The scars of my past were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had emerged from the shadows of heartache stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. As I looked ahead to the future, I knew that the road ahead would have its challenges and uncertainties. But armed with the lessons of my past and the strength of my resolve, I faced the journey with optimism and courage, ready to embrace whatever the future held. The chapter of my life with Sarah had come to a close, but the story of my life continued, an open book waiting to be filled with new adventures, meaningful connections, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The journey through the tumultuous waters of betrayal and forgiveness had been arduous, but through it all, I emerged with a newfound appreciation for faithfulness and trust. The scars of betrayal had once cut deep, leaving wounds that seemed impossible to heal. Yet with time and introspection, I discovered that true strength lay not in holding on to anger or seeking retribution, but in finding peace within myself. As I look back now, I see how each challenge, each moment of doubt, and each painful revelation shaped me into the person I am today. Stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The temptation of vengeance had briefly clouded my judgment, a natural response to the hurt I felt, but I soon realized that revenge would only perpetuate the cycle of pain and bitterness. Instead, I chose a different path. I immersed myself in self-discovery, seeking solace in activities that nurtured my soul and encouraged personal growth. Yoga became a sanctuary, offering not only physical strength, but also mental clarity and emotional stability. Meditation became a daily practice, guiding me toward inner peace and a deeper understanding of my own emotions. Through therapy, I confronted my deepest fears and insecurities, unraveling the complex emotions that had gripped my heart in the aftermath of betrayal. I learned to forgive, not for the sake of the person who had wronged me, but for my own sake, releasing the burden of resentment that had weighed me down for so long. Surrounded by supportive friends and family, I found strength in their unwavering love and encouragement. They stood by me through the darkest days, offering a shoulder to lean on and a listening ear when I needed it most. Their belief in me fueled my determination to rise above the pain and embrace a future filled with hope and possibility. One crisp morning, as I watched the sunrise paint the sky in hues of pink and gold, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The bitterness that had once consumed me had faded, replaced by a deep appreciation for the blessings in my life and the lessons I had learned along the way. Looking back on the journey, I realized that true liberation came not from holding on to grudges or seeking retaliation, but from letting go and allowing myself to heal. I had emerged from the shadows of betrayal with a renewed sense of clarity and purpose, ready to embrace the beauty of trust and faithfulness once more. As I move forward into the unknown chapters of my life, I carry with me the wisdom gained from my experiences. I cherish the gift of trust, recognizing its fragility and importance in nurturing meaningful relationships. And I hold fast to the belief that every challenge we face has the power to shape us into stronger, more compassionate individuals. With each passing day, I am grateful for the journey that led me to this place, a place of inner peace, forgiveness, and a profound appreciation for the enduring power of love.